What's up, guys? Nuance Bro checking in, and today we're going to be talking about a few of my recommendations if you're trying to be a more nuanced individual. One thing that people always ask me about is how do I have these conversations with people where I'm able to extract so much information from them and they're able to talk to me, whereas with someone else, they might be yelling at them and stuff. So I'm going to make some recommendations there and just some, it's just one or two things. I'm recommending one book and one documentary series that I think is very interesting and gives you some different perspectives and sources and all that stuff. So we're going to get into that. But before we do that, I want to make an announcement. The NRA annual meetings for 2018 is actually this weekend in Dallas, Texas. So if you guys want to see me go down there and cover the event, please consider supporting this channel at www.patreon.com/nuancebro. Helps out a lot, helps us travel to different locations like I did with Washington, D.C. at the March for Our Lives. And, it helps finance this trip down to Dallas, Texas for the NRA annual meetings. So that's coming up in a few days. So stay tuned for that. So let's get on to the topic of the day. And that's going to be just some of my suggestions on things to watch, things to read. So this time it's going to be short, just one book, one video. And the book that I want to recommend is this book right here, Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When Stakes Are High. Now, I had kind of a unique upbringing, I suppose, growing up where I did, and just different sort of circumstances that led me to become the person I am today. And, it's not like I read this book when I was 5 years old and then I was able to develop, skills with talking to people, being politically informed and all that. But when I read this book about a year ago or so, it really just kind of put things that I already knew to be true into just words on paper. And I was like, wow, they really eloquently state this stuff. And, this book is actually used by a lot of corporate America. They give this to a lot of their employees when, companies that are suffering from communication breakdown and things like that. And this book just lays things out so perfectly. And the thing is, these principles, they can apply not just to, things like we do here at Nuance Bro, interviewing people, just talking to people about politics, but, it goes into relationships. It gives you situations about that. It gives you things about the corporate or business environment, talking to your boss or other colleagues and trying to, maintain good relationships and trying to persuade people, bring them to your side and come to a common understanding or, some common resolution. So this book has like really good lessons in there. I highly recommend you guys check it out. I'm going to leave a link in the description box below if you want to buy the book. Now, my second recommendation is actually a sort of TV miniseries documentary from Norwegian television. It's called Hjernevask, which means brainwashed. And it's basically the narrator or the main guy running the whole show is Harold. He's a comedian up there. But he goes around and he interviews, he asks these tough questions about, sort of nature versus nurture, gender, the gender equality paradox, because they're known for egalitarianism and equality between the sexes up there. And it talks about like, well, are men and women the same? It talks about race. It talks about violence. It talks about all these sort of different things and interviews top experts in their field. So he flies even to America and interviews people like Steven Pinker, goes to places like the UK, interviews Simon Baron-Cohen, interviews people like Richard Lippa, all kinds of experts in their field. And it's a super interesting documentary. I watched it probably like 4 or 5 years ago. It was super good. Now, the thing is about this documentary, you're going to have subtitles on if you don't speak Norwegian. But I think that way it actually keeps you more engaged. You're more like really taking in the information because you have to read it, because you can't just kind of listen to it passively, maybe doing cardio at the gym or something. So it's really, really good documentary. It's a 7-part series. I highly recommend you watch all of them. So I'm going to link part 1 in the description box below, but I'll probably put a clip in here of just like a taste of like some of the discussions or, something from the documentary if you guys want to watch it just for a brief bit.
Is there such a thing as a peaceful past?
This is unlikely as a generalization, because many studies suggest that the past was quite violent. If you look at skeletons and try to ascertain the cause of death from the skeleton, a lot of them have a tomahawk blade in the neck or an arrow in the hip. 13% of skeletons in one study died of violent causes, and those are just ones where you could see the violence on the skeleton. So if you look at contemporary people who seem to be living a lifestyle that is more similar to our past, that is living as hunter-gatherers, as foragers, and you count the causes of death, an enormous percentage of the men die at the hands of other men. Anywhere from 15% to 60% of men are casualties of homicide or war. That's even higher than in Europe in the 20th century, including both world wars, as a percentage.
So we live in relatively peaceful time now.
Compared to the lives of our ancestors, even with all the violence around us, statistically it is far lower.
I det 20. århundre ble 100 millioner mennesker drept I krig. Men Pinky mener at hvis krigene I vår tid hadde vært like dødelige som en typisk stammekrig, hadde det blitt drept 20 ganger så mange. 2 milliarder.
People still feel that it's more violent now.
I think they do feel that. In fact, I've done studies that show that people think that today is a more violent era than 50 years ago, than 500 years ago, than 5,000 years ago. And they're wrong every time.
But yeah, that's the quick video for today, guys. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Support me on Patreon. Social media links are in the description box below. And I'll see you at the NRA annual meetings.